And we will be here every year you have us. This is my job to be in the community. All we need is a place to do it. So we will be here forever. So just let us know about that. Show of hands, how many were here last year? It was mid-August. So a good amount, but a good amount that have not been here. This is more than we had last year. I was talking to somebody just a couple minutes ago. Each year we want more and more. So if you like what we're talking about, you like what we're handing out, just tell your neighbors. We're your neighbors down the road. I work in Newport, in Carteret County. We're here as a resource, so please use us. And I listened and I watched how last year went because I've been doing this 7 years, but I'm very flexible and I change. And I saw that you like handouts and printouts and things that you can take home and use. So this is laminated. Mr. Morgan Sims, my colleague in the back, and I spent time yesterday laminating these. The reason for that is get this on your refrigerator, leave it there. Use a dry erase marker, mark off what you've done and what you haven't done, and then use it next year and the following year and the next year. So this is for you to keep forever. This is not to throw away. And then we certainly have the hurricane guides. If you didn't get one and you don't know what I'm talking about, we have more back at our table. There's a booth back there with more handouts. So my name is Eric Hayden. I am a meteorologist with the Weather Service in Newport. We're going to talk about hurricanes today. There's some new things. So for those that raised your hand and said, oh, I heard Mr. Eric last year, he's going to say the same thing. That's right. A lot of it's going to be the same. But each year we bring something new. We've got the storm surge poll. We've got the handout. So we try to mix it up each year, even though the messages are the same. Continue to trust us, official sources. Water is what kills people. Wind is a concern, but it's water, water, water. And we kind of know that because we live in a community surrounded by water, but a lot of people don't realize that. Never, ever focus on just the category of the storm, and impacts can occur well away from the center. Just because we don't have landfall, it could be Myrtle Beach, it could be Delaware, we can still be impacted here in Eastern North Carolina. This is a map showing our offices all across the country. It's important to remember we've been around for a long time. 1871, the Weather Bureau was formed. 1874, we have roots in Eastern North Carolina. We got our name, National Weather Service, in 1970 when NOAA was formed. But again, 1871, we've been here forever. You all pay for us. $4 per person per year to fund the Weather Service. What does that mean? Satellite, radar, any of you with phones that get a forecast, any of you that watch TV and get a forecast. It is from us in this room. We're tax-paying citizens, and we make those decisions based on the economic of the country, trying to save lives. That's really our main mission. This map represents all the offices across the country. Our main mission is protection of life and property, but we do community outreach like this. These are the men and women that live in your community that represent you. We stay 24/7 at that facility year-round. So when you have Thanksgiving dinner this year, you're opening Christmas presents, somebody is at that office. And we're staffed for emergencies. So if the weather's bad, we're always there. That's what our office looked like during Florence. We lived there because weather was bad in our community. We're a safe spot, so we stay no matter what. We have about 20 to 25 people. Doesn't seem like a lot, but we have 122 offices in the country. And again, we're responsible for New Bern, North River, Carteret County, Outer Banks, Greenville, Kinston. This is our area of coverage. So we're not in Raleigh, we're not in Washington, D.C., we're not down in Atlanta, Georgia. We're in Eastern North Carolina. So we care about you, and that's why we're here today. Our biggest challenge is this behind me. People tease me all the time that must be nice to have a job that you can get it wrong all the time. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I heard some chuckling and laughing. You said that. You said it. All right. The reason why it irritates me is I was not good at math. It took a long time to get my degree because I was not good at math. And we had a lot of math and weather. But the reason why it irritates me is we actually get it right a lot. A lot. The problem is, where are you getting the forecast from? Are you getting it from here? The internet, social media, or are you getting it from an official source? So on the far left is an image from TikTok. It's one of the newer things for social media. I try to stay away from that, but I've got let's see if I can remember now, 11, a 14, and a 17-year-old. So my house is very busy. That's why it took me a second to remember. And so my oldest was talking about TikTok, and I said, I got to get on here and see what's going on. Well, I didn't like to see what was going on because on the left, it says Hurricane Aaron. After Hurricane Aaron, a couple weeks ago, there's going to be a Category 5 in DC. Did that ever happen? It certainly did not. There's a lot of noise out there. Please pay attention to official sources. The official sources can be our local media, Channel 12, NCT, ITN, that's fine. The Weather Channel, AccuWeather, national sources, that's fine as well, or the National Weather Service. That's who you should be paying attention to. Not what you see on the internet, not what you see on social media. And you have to ask yourself, why would somebody post that? Why would you purposely scare people? Money. That gets clicks. People see that. It's anybody can post one model run of a hurricane hitting Charleston and scare people, and a lot of people are going to share it. Mr. Morgan and I make the same salary today as I do during Florence. I don't benefit. I see your faces and I think about you when we have a storm. I think about my 3 kids and my wife evacuating the area. I think about our community. I don't want it to be bad. Why would I want it to be bad? So I have no benefit from hyping things up. So please pay attention to Hurricane Center or the National Weather Service. That's us. That's who you should be paying attention to. And again, you don't have to go searching for it. It's going to be out there. You might say, well, Eric, you have to say that. I can't come here and say that we're not the best, right? So I'm going to prove it to you because we save everything. Show of hands, how many heard about Helene last year in the mountains? Really, really bad storm coming up on a year. This is our statement before Helene, before the storm happened, from our Greenville, South Carolina office. This is an incredibly dangerous situation, potential to be a once-in-a-lifetime event. Consider temporarily relocating. Very strong language. And again, keep in mind, we're not doing that because we want to hype it up. We care and we're scientists and we think it's going to be really bad. So we will put that information out there. Your job is just to focus on us, not the noise, and then move on with your day. Don't waste energy on all of that. More proof. This is a forecast cone. This shows where the center of the storm is going to go. 3 days before Helene even formed, we predicted it was going to go into Florida as a major hurricane. I got to say that again. 3 days before Helene was even a storm. It wasn't a depression. It wasn't a tropical storm. It wasn't a hurricane. It was nothing. It wasn't even a storm. We predicted it was going to go into the panhandle of Florida. That's the satellite showing the eye going into Florida. So our accuracy is there. Are we going to miss stuff sometimes? Yes. Are we going to get every aspect of the storm right? No. But overall, the problem is not the accuracy. It's communication, people believing it could be bad, people trusting us. So that's why we do community talks like this, because you're all believers now. I can see it. But your job is to tell your friends. I hope so. I got more proof. Tell your friends, families, and neighbors who we are and what we bring to the table to protect you, because that is my job. All right, so I still saw some faces that said, I don't know. I don't know if I believe Eric. So I brought more proof. And I don't want to date any of us because I know a lot of us have lived in the community for a long time. But who remembers Gloria in 1985? Get those hands up. All right. So if I was working with Justin back in 1985, and 3 days before Gloria, I would say the center of the storm, based on our average error, could be somewhere from Savannah, Georgia to Washington, D.C. Real wide. And that's just the center of the storm. That's not even the whole thing, just the dot on the map. So mid-80s, not that good. Who remembers Floyd in 1999? Everybody hands up. All right. So Justin and I were working together. In 1999, I would say the center would be somewhere between Charleston and Richmond. Better. It's getting better. Not too bad. In the year 2024, last year for Helene, the average error for the center, where the center was going to be, was under 70 miles. I would tell you somewhere between Greenville and Wilmington. Say that again, somewhere between Greenville and Wilmington. Again, are we going to get a forecast wrong sometimes? Of course. But overall, The accuracy continues to improve. The problem is communication. That's why they're hiring more people like me. I've been in it a long time, 18 years with the Weather Service, but really pushing the communication aspect. That is a wonderful spread of food back there. I appreciate the church and all the volunteers that did this. But who likes spaghetti? Right? You like spaghetti? All right. Raise your hand if you've seen this kind of spaghetti on the left. It's a spaghetti model, right? You've seen it on the news, seen it on social media. It looks like, my youngest is 11, so I can't say Matthew drew that. He's my youngest. But it looks like Matthew drew that in kindergarten, right? And that's where we get a misnomer. Anybody could be a meteorologist. Look at all this crazy stuff. So what this is, it's a model. It's an ensemble model of all the possibilities. And with a trained meteorologist, it is very useful. What you look for is where do the majority of the tracks go, and that's what that black line is, the mean, and that is the most likely scenario. So by a trained meteorologist, it does have use, and we do use that. We don't draw all those crazy lines. Those are just all the scenarios. The problem is you look at this one on the left, you're like, what about that one? That's the one that's going to get me. And what do they show you on social media? That one. They don't show you the average. So instead of that, pay attention to this. 175 years of experience at the Hurricane Center. This is a track of Aaron weeks ago, somewhere between Eastern North Carolina and Bermuda. And that is exactly what happened. Exactly. We threaded the needle, but day after day, people heard about us getting an impactful storm. Outer Banks, yes. Did we have some higher tides? Yes. Not that we can't get impacts away from a storm, but please pay attention to official sources of information. Since we're mentioning it, everybody knows this forecast cone. You've seen it, you don't want to be near it, right? We all know that. What you don't know is that shows where the center of the storm is likely to go. It does not show everybody that's going to be impacted. It only shows where the center goes. And we have a lot of experience. I see people nodding, so that's good. But as we get closer to the storm, sometimes we're not in that path. For Florence, we were not in the path a day or two out because it was predicted the center was going to go down to Wrightsville Beach, and that's what happened. But we were obviously impacted. So what this is it shows you, should I pay attention? You should pay attention if you're anywhere near that cone, not just in or out. So I never want you to look at this and say, oh, I'm out of it. I don't have to worry about it anymore. No. If it's anywhere from Florida to Delaware, you should be paying attention to that forecast cone. Same thing, if it's just offshore, don't think you can't get impacts. If you're anywhere near it, because this is showing the dot on the map, and we all know, we've experienced it, hurricanes are hundreds of miles across. Here's an example on Helene, very skinny cone. Unlike, this cone continues to get skinnier and skinnier year after year. It's based on error. It's not wide for one storm and narrow for another. It's based on error, so it's going to continue to get smaller. So a lot of Western North Carolina was not in the cone as the storm approached, because accurately the center didn't go over them, but they still were impacted. To try to get around that, we're trying to show watches and warnings superimposed on top of it. Bottom line is just listen to the messages. Don't pay attention just to the cone itself. Here's Floyd in 99. Everybody remembers this. Here's the eye. What you might not remember, especially if you're new, these bright clouds indicate heavy rain and wind, hour after hour after hour after hour after hour. And then all of a sudden, here's landfall. Landfall is important, but it's not everything. Everybody wants to know, where's it going to hit? When's it going to hit? This thing is hundreds of miles across. So if you're new in the area, just realize our impacts start hours and sometimes days before it even gets here. And again, a lot of us know this because we've been here. So keep in mind, this can be a slow process when we get storms in our area. I mentioned official sources of information. To remember that, we got a joke. I don't know if anybody remembers it from last year, but if it's the weather you love, it's weather.gov. That's all you need to remember. It's a good government site. Weather you love is weather.gov. So just go to weather.gov and click on Eastern North Carolina, and you're going to get great information. There's no ads. There's no nonsense. It is your tax-paying money pays for that. The other one is social media. I mentioned in the beginning, don't pay attention to the noise. There are some good, useful sources of information on social media. So if you're on social media, NWS Morehead City, that's how you can follow us. And we do wave our hands and say, hey, you should come to the forum in North River this Saturday at noon. So we talk about stuff like that on social media. So we certainly try to reach people that way as well. On our website, you do have access to briefings. So if you want to know what the superintendent and the mayor and the commissioners are getting, that's what they're getting. So you can see exactly what they're getting. We don't hide anything. Everything is out there. That is all on our website. A show of hands, how many of you pay attention to the tropical outlook each day? It looks like this on the website, but on the local news and the Weather Channel, they talk about it. You know, they kind of show an area of interest. That's something you should be paying attention to pretty much every day now. You don't have to worry and look at it 4 times a day, but once in the morning or evening news, just kind of pay attention. Do I need to worry about anything, or can I go on with my day? So that's something. It'll show a low, medium, or high chance of something happening. And we are, right, we still have a chance of something out there. So we're starting, this is an old one, but we are watching off the coast of Africa, a possibility of something forming here in the next week. So something to kind of pay attention to. Again, not to worry about, but just pay attention to. On the Hurricane Center website, it's hurricanes.gov. That is the website information. And I was remiss without mentioning this. I was so happy about these laminated checklists, which we're going to talk about in a second. But at that back table, we do have the guides, and we do have some handouts on a lot of what I'm talking about. So a lot of what I'm talking about is in print form as well. So you certainly have access to that. There's a lot of information. When is here? How high will the storm surge be? All of that is on our local site or the Hurricane Center site. Say, Mr. Eric, I don't get on the internet. I don't do social media. That's all right. Your local news will be talking about this. We work as a team. We all want to be together saying the same thing so that you don't get a mixed message. So it's okay. You just watch local news, you'll be okay as well. You'll get the same information. This slide I show each year. The time to prepare is now. We are just coming off the peak of hurricane season. The problem is storms like Matthew and Sandy and Hazel occurred in October, November, toward November. So we still have a ways to go. Don't let your guard down. Don't be fooled that just because we're past Labor Day and the kids are back in school that we're good to go. We know that we're not good to go. We still have another month plus to get through. If you didn't realize, a lot of you nodded your heads or raised your hand for certain storms. We've had a lot of storms in our area. We are the most vulnerable stretch of coastline in the entire country, Eastern North Carolina. Not New Orleans, not Texas, not South Florida, Eastern North Carolina. The way we stick out, we get a lot of storms. Live in a beautiful area, but we certainly can get those storms. That's an image down the road from us in Morehead City back in 1954 with Hazel. So for hurricane preparedness, this is our website. There's a lot of good information on there. There's a lot of this is in your guide. What I want you to remember is that last bullet. Planning now is key. This weather the last couple of weeks has been beautiful. It feels like fall. Everything's, you know, we're not that stressed. Football started. We're cooling off. We're not hot. We're in a pretty good stretch of life right now. If we get a storm and it's 5 days out, you're going to become stressed. We're going to run out of water. We run out of things. Everybody gets the same thing. So if you make a decision now when you're not stressed, you're going to make a really, really good decision. The first step is, what is your risk? Who is in your home? Who are you responsible for? Do you have elderly parents? Is somebody reliant on oxygen or electricity? Do you have cats, animals, young kids, whoever? That is what determines your vulnerability. In addition to the weather, where we live, our vulnerability is higher because of the water around us. That's another factor. So that all goes into your decision making for your plan. Before you get to a kit, before you evacuate, you got to think about who's in your house first. Who are you responsible for? Next step is your hurricane kit. We used to say try to plan for 3 days of everything you would need. Food, water, and medicine. That's ground floor, basement level. We really want you to try to do at least a week if you can. Not all of us can go out and do that tomorrow. And that's why we talk about it today and in May and June, July, August, September, and October. So there's something in the back. They talk about a weekly challenge, and we talk about this. Start with the essentials. Get bottled water, canned goods, things that will keep you sustainable if you don't have electricity. Then in a week or two, however long it takes, you move on to step 2. Batteries, chargers, being able to stay in communication. Step 3, first aid kits, deodorant, soap, all things you would like to have, but you need water, you need food. Spread it out over weeks and months. That will make it more financially sustainable, and also you actually do it. So don't think of this as a one-time thing. This is a forever thing. Those canned goods you get this weekend, they're not going anywhere unless, again, I keep mentioning my kids eat through that hurricane kit. Those canned goods are going to be good next year and maybe even the year after. So it's a lifelong thing we're talking about. We're not talking about just this hurricane season. A lot of information on the website, and that's why we have this checklist. At least check something off. Try to get something checked off this weekend and start with water or canned goods. Start with your essentials and work down from that. The last step, you've got your kit. You've decided, who's vulnerable in the home or what your vulnerability is. At least have a thought about evacuation. What would I do? How would I get there? Who would help me? At least have that thought. A lot of us say, well, I would never leave, or maybe I can't leave. Maybe it's really hard for me to leave. I can't just get in a car and drive out of Carteret County. I understand that. So that's when you work with your church, your family, neighbors. Who helps you now? When you need something, who do you go to? That's who you work with to talk about how I would get out of here. So if you talk about it today, then you have a plan for when there's a storm. And then you say, hey, my grandson comes over and cuts the grass. He's who helps me usually. Well, then that's who I'm going to try to go to in advance to get out of here. You always want to plan to get out of here. I've heard it. It's hard to get back. You don't want to leave home. You grew up here. This is all you know. I get all of that. Some of us may have businesses here, and you can start to repair them or maybe prevent further damage if you stay. I get all of that. But I want you to be here next year and the next year and the next year. We cannot replace you. And again, I don't try scare tactics. It doesn't benefit me. I don't own stock in water. I don't own stock in generators. I just work in Carteret County and I care about you. So just think about it. Just think about what would I do if the storm is really bad? And then guess what? When it's not bad, you live in paradise. We live in a great location. That's why we stayed for so long. And you just move on with your life. So it's not scary. You just want to be prepared. The better you are prepared for a disaster, the better your outcome. There's no way around it. All right. Now we're going to move on to a couple more things, and then we're going to turn it over to you for questions. Raise your hand and don't be shy. We won't get the news. I think the news people already left, so we won't get this on film. So don't be shy. Raise your hand if you have said this or somebody else has said this. I'm not going to leave unless it's at least a Category 3 storm, or I'm not going to leave unless it's a 2 or a 4. Hey, don't worry about that storm. It's just a 1, right? We've all said it. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. So that category scale is only related to wind. It says nothing about rain. It doesn't say that you live close to sea level. It doesn't say you got a foot of rain last week. It doesn't say the storm's going to stay over you for 4 days. It's important. I'm not saying to ignore it. When Florence was a 4, I was worried. So respect it, but never, ever, ever, ever make your decisions just based on this, ever. Because it doesn't take into account everything. And one thing it doesn't take into account is water. It's a wind scale. Water's what kills people. About 85% of deaths are water related. Those are some pictures across down East Carteret County. So water is usually our biggest issue. A couple more things to prove it. It doesn't even have to have a name. Last September down in Wilmington, southwest of Wilmington, they had bad flooding. It had tropical characteristics, but it didn't get a name. And it caused 20 inches of rain. Chantal, this last July. It was a depression, technically, when it moved over Raleigh, and they had some of the highest water levels since Fran in '96. So we all know this. And if you didn't know this, what was the category rating of Florence? 1. A 1. Because it's only based on wind, and the wind was weakening. So again, if you hear a neighbor say, "Hey, don't worry about that storm, it's just a 1." Well, how much rain are we going to get? How long is it going to be over us? All those types of things are important. And you're not going to have to decipher this, but this is what I want you to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to this, not just the number. So if we're going to get 20 inches of rain, it doesn't matter if it has a name or what the number is. It matters what we say is going to happen. And that's how we're going to end. Our biggest risk where we stand today is storm surge. We can't get around it. It's where we live. We have water around us at high tide. Storm surge, when a storm comes in, it pushes water toward the coast, and it's a rapid rise of water ahead of the storm. And that can cause flooding across much of our area and where we stand today as well. It's not just based on the category of the storm, and it doesn't have to make landfall. Florence, the other thing about Florence, it was a 1. It made landfall down by Wilmington. It didn't even, the center didn't even hit here. So can you imagine if it was a little closer? So to kind of give you a little guide on that, there are many examples of storm surge where we stand. You got Dorian in 2019. You have Florence in 2018, but even Ophelia in 2023 caused water in our community. So just to reemphasize, for Easters, winter storms, we can have high water. So again, it's just reality where we live, but those are a couple examples that we have. This is an example for where we stand today in terms of water. So we're unfortunately in this lower lying area. So the red is, orange is greater than 6 feet and red is greater than 9. So that's what this pole is. And I can't go up past 6 feet because of the ceiling. So when Mr. Eric says 3 feet, 6 feet of water, what does that really mean? Well, about 3 feet of water can sweep you away. That's my waist level. I like to think I'm 6 feet tall. I'm really at 5'10" and a half. We'll say I'm about 6 feet. That's 6 feet of water. So when we talk about 6 feet of water and being life-threatening, this is what we're talking about. And in our community, it's above, where this ceiling is today. So we've lived here, we know it, we've experienced it. But if you're new, just to kind of remember that we can have water that high from storms in our community. Whenever you get a lot of rain with a tropical system, you can certainly get flooding from the rain. We've had that. We will issue flash flood warnings. It's a good idea to have a NOAA weather radio, a way to get these warnings. If you have a phone, leave that on. Make sure it's not turned off. Watching the local news, staying informed. Those are all good things. And never, ever cross a flooded road. This is an example, and I know some of you saw this last year, but water's very powerful. It can easily sweep a car away. But what you don't realize is you don't know how deep that water is. And you don't know if the road exists underneath it. And this is not an image from, somewhere else in the United States. This is up by Hookerton, by Snow Hill. So this is our area. The other thing to point out, here's the water line. So I don't tell you to evacuate or to stay, but just keep in mind why we tell you to have 7 days, if not more, of food, water, and medicine is, if you're okay, around you might not be. So for us, you will be surrounded by water, so people can't get to you. That includes emergency services, but also water. Your water may not work. So that's why we talk about stocking up on the life essentials. You're probably not driving during a storm, but just always keep this in mind. Never, ever cross a flooded road. Turn around, don't drown is our campaign with that. Inland from us, we can get river flooding. This is why some people don't leave the area, because a couple days later, the Neuse River in Kinston comes up and you can't come back 70. There are other ways to get back here, but we do have flooding, and it does last a long time. Here locally, once that water comes up, sometimes it takes a while to go back down. We kind of know that as well. I put wind toward the end. You can have fallen trees on homes. Wind is dangerous, but statistically, even in Helene, which had a lot of wind inland, water was still the #1 killer. So that's why we talk about water so much. The last real big windstorm we had was Fran or Irene. Fran was a Category 3 storm. Last time we had a major hurricane in Florida, 1996. So it's been a while. And the big deal with that is extended power outages. It's one thing if we're out without air conditioning today, it's all right. But when it's a 90-degree day and it's humid like it usually is, it could be life-threatening, especially for our older population. So please keep that in mind when the biggest threat with that is probably extended power outages. Last, tornadoes. You might say, Eric, you already talked about the wind and surge. Isn't that enough? I just want you to keep in mind, you don't have to do anything special with tornadoes other than this, or your radio or watching the local news. You're not out in the storm. But when you get that warning, I want you to be able to get to the center of your home and down as low as possible, because they happen real quick. That's the example from Emerald Isle back during Dorian. Sometimes people will escape the hurricane and they have no damage. Whew, I made it through. And then a tornado comes through and they have damage. So it's isolated, but just kind of keep that in mind if you're around during a storm that we can get tornadoes as well. As we end the talk, everything we talked about up until this point was preparedness before the storm. Prepare, 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 food, water, and medicine, stock up, think about others, think about your neighbors. How would you leave if you needed to leave? All good information. This slide is during and after the storm. Do not let your guard down. The water is dirty. Don't walk through it if you can help it. We've lost people because of infection. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Generators are great, but you got to know that they got to be in a ventilated area away from the house. Electrocutions, power lines, you don't know if they're live. You know, there's a lot of dangers after the storm. A lot of people like to clean up their yard right away. Get your grandkids to do it. Get some, if you don't, you might have to show them a little money, but you can get, don't do yard work after the storm if you don't usually do it. A lot of people, you know, overexert themselves. About half our deaths occur after the storm. So don't be in a rush. You know, it's going to take a while. We're still recovering from Florence. It's a long game with after these storms. So don't be in a rush to get back to normal. So this point forward, my challenge to you is to share this with other people and do something about it. We have no control over the weather. I don't know if we're going to get a storm this year, next year, or the next 5 years. But I do know you have control over taking that checklist that I gave you, looking at what you need, and at least getting water this weekend. At least get water. At least get canned goods, something. You do have control over sharing this with somebody that couldn't be here today. We're recording this. We're going to put it on YouTube. I know Justin's young, so he knows how the ins and outs of everything. So he can help us get that message to the community that was not here today, because we're recording this, because not everybody can be here today, and we'll work with Justin. So there's a lot you have control over. At the end of the day, we live in an awesome area. That's why we haven't moved. We might get a storm and we might not, but you have control over preparing, and then you just move on with your life. If we got a storm, then you're ready. And if not, you're ready for next year. That's my email. I'll be happy to take any questions. If you can't tell from last year or this year or what we bring or our enthusiasm, we like to talk about weather and help people. That's why I got through all the math. That's why I went to school to do weather. I can't fully do the job without your help. I can have the most accurate forecast, but unless people get that information, it's useless. So have us back to something else, have us back to any other platform, we'll do it. We've done, we can do shorter talks, longer talks. We could just do a table at a community day. Just have us out there and we'll be there, because the more people that know about this, the better. And that's my email, or you can talk to me afterwards. As you leave, if you do leave, back where Justin is now, there's a lot more handouts. So if you don't know, you know, this guide, the checklist guide, if you didn't get this, that's back there. If you didn't get a hurricane guide, that's back there. And there's some handouts on the weather service as well.